What's up, a Cinema Shogun here, and it happens all the time. I'm sure most of you all know this by now, but the U.S. military often has these little joint training operations with other countries. For example, we will have a joint training operation with South Korea, and in the process, we usually piss North Korea off, and they start shooting missiles into the Sea of Japan. And we have joint training operations with Taiwan. This usually pisses China off, and they start sending their navy to circle Taiwan. It happens all the time. It's been going on for years. But when you see things like this happen, at least as an American, you think that there's no way another country would do something like this right off the coast of the U.S. You think as an American, you don't have to worry about things like that. These countries know better. They wouldn't try that around here. Well, that is until now. Because America has been it's been totally weakened. We have had our balls chopped off, basically. And now, these little tactics that you used to see the U.S. take against other countries are bold enough to do that to us now. And it's getting to the point where I hate to say this, I definitely don't want World War III or a full-scale military conflict, but it looks like it's going to happen. It almost looks like it's inevitable, and I'm kind of just sitting here like, let's just get it over with. What happens, happens. I'm tired of sitting around playing, knowing in the back of my mind that something's going to eventually pop off. Let's just get it over with. Instead of all of these little provocations, like we're going to provoke this country this way, this country's going to provoke us this way, and it just seems like a huge waste of time. If you guys want to fight, just fight and get it over with. Now, that's not the mentality that I like to have, but unfortunately, the way things look, it's kind of forced me to feel this way. But anyways, as I was saying, China, along with Russia, they've been emboldened lately. And this week, they decided to do joint naval operations right off the coast of Alaska. And it got pretty sticky. It got really close to something popping off. I want to go ahead and dive right into this information. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button in the process and go ahead and start dropping those comments below. China and Russia conducted a joint naval operation near the coast of Alaska earlier this week in a highly provocative move amid the war in Ukraine that triggered a robust U.S. military response. 11 Russian and Chinese ships neared the islands off the coast of Alaska earlier this week near the maritime boundary Russia shares with the U.S., but the fleets never entered U.S. waters. The fleets of ships have since left and were tailed by 4 U.S. destroyers and P-8 Poseidon aircraft, officials confirmed. It's a historical first. It is a historical first, Brent Sadler, a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation and a retired Navy captain, says. Given the context of the war in Ukraine and tensions around Taiwan, this move is highly provocative. A spokesperson for the U.S. Northern Command confirmed that the 2 American adversaries carried out a combined naval patrol near Alaska, but did not confirm the number of ships or their exact locations. Air and maritime assets under our commands conducted operations to assure the defense of the United States and Canada. The patrol remained in international waters and was not considered a threat, the command said in a statement. The exact time and location of the near invasion have not been made public, and information about the event is still being declassified. Republican Alaska Senator Dan Sullivan confirmed the incursion took place within the last few days, and that while the U.S. military had a strong response, such an incident was unprecedented. First, this is unprecedented, not just for Alaska, but for America, to have 11 warships jointly being operated by the Chinese and Russians, who are increasingly working together, essentially doing freedom of navigation and navigation operation incursions into Alaska's area, Sullivan said. The incident was yet another reminder that we have entered a new era of authoritarian aggression led by dictators in Beijing and Moscow, Sullivan said on Twitter. Sullivan, a Republican member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, has repeatedly asked military leaders to increase the assets available to defend Alaska. After last year's incursion, I mentioned to several leaders in the military, hey, we need to prepare for this happening again. And when it does, we need to have a much more robust response. In September, a single U.S. Coast Guard cutter was on the scene when 7 Russian and Chinese ships were near the Alaskan island chain, prompting what Sullivan called a tepid response. As it stands, Russia has greater assets than Alaska, something Sullivan says stands as a reminder that there's still work to do for Alaska. I think it just underscores the need for the continued buildup of not only forces in Alaska, but the infrastructure that can handle them, particularly infrastructure like the deep water port of Nome, a greater naval, Coast Guard, and Marine presence in Alaska. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that has never happened before in not only the history of Alaska, but in the history of America itself. Since America has been founded, we have never had this many warships floating off of the coast of the U.S. Now, the fact that they're going straight to Alaska, that's something that I would expect. And from the sounds of it, Alaska's not really ready for a full response if they decided to try something crazy. I mean, last year we had a similar situation. I think they said it was 7 Russian and Chinese ships, and all we sent out was a little Coast Guard boat to confront them. Luckily, this time we had a better response, but still not the response that would be needed to defend Alaska if these boats or these ships decided to carry out an attack. I think that America is getting exposed. It's been getting exposed for the last couple of years, maybe even longer. And the more we get exposed and the more our enemies explore our weaknesses, the more likely it is that we're going to see some type of an assault on our home soil. Like I was talking about earlier, as Americans, we have this way of thinking. And it's not like I'm being condescending towards other people, because I have this way of thinking as well. It's kind of just baked within us. You know what I mean? But we have this way of thinking that things that happen other places can't happen here. Just like I was talking about earlier, you would think that we wouldn't have other militaries from other countries carrying out joint operations right off of our coast. Yet here we are. And you would think that we would never have to worry about attacks on U.S. soil. But it could happen, folks. I think that's something that Americans need to slowly start to realize. That as our country grows weaker, other people are going to hop on that opportunity. The world is not kumbaya. This is not a big picnic. The world is a brutal, savage place. It always has been. It most likely always will be. Now, there have been some things that have been keeping society in check. And one of the things that seems to have been keeping society in check was the power that America once had. We no longer have that power. And when you no longer have that power, your enemies will take advantage of those opportunities. And I think that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing these countries all around the world start to band together because they know that now is the time. If there was ever a time to strike, now is the time. And I can't help but feel like 2024 is going to be one hell of a roller coaster. It doesn't matter who you vote for. Let's acknowledge that the next election is going to be wild. This country is going to be thrown into one of our most challenging times we have ever seen. And these other countries know that. And I think that's what they may be waiting for. Hopefully I'm wrong, though. Let me know your thoughts, though, about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next video.